I hope you're excited for our dialogue today. We are going to have an interesting chat with a very special guest. Hello, hi Hassan, hi Jayatma. Okay, there's someone with my name. Hi Lillian. Welcome everyone. Please tell us in the comments where you are from and where you are joining us from. Hi Pragya, hi Naeem, hi Meera. Hello, hi Ramiz. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Please let me know in the comments where you are joining us from um, and how you are doing. How is everybody doing today? I think our special guest is here, so welcome let me welcome her. Hello Agnes.
Hi, hi, good
How
to
are
see you.
you? Very good to see you too. Thank you so much for joining.
No, thank you for having me.
Thanks. So I was just saying hello to our followers and also asking them where they're joining us from. So we have people joining us from India, Tunisia, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, and all over the world. So a big hello and welcome to everyone. Thanks for joining us live. So today our conversation is going to focus on food systems. Last year, the UN Secretary General called for a food system summit and an engagement process to unleash the power of food to deliver progress on the SDGs and climate action and bring us all together. So, for over a year, the UN Food System Summit process is involving young people, civil society leaders, farmers, experts, academia, in bringing our entire world together to talk about food systems and to make our food systems stronger and more equitable. Particularly also as we tackle the COVID-19 pandemic, there's a critical opportunity to build back stronger than ever. And how do we integrate food systems into that conversation? So to talk about all of that with us, and especially the summit, is joining us today is Agnes Kalibata. Agnes is the UN's Special Envoy for the Food Systems Summit. Agnes, very warm welcome to you. I'm joining from Colombo, Sri Lanka. I'm sure our followers would love to know a little bit more about you, where you're joining us from, where you're from, and what is your job as the Special Envoy?
Thank you so much. Tell me, by the way, how do you pronounce your first name?
It's Jayatma.
Okay, okay. So I didn't want to make a mistake. So thank you, Jayatma, and thank you for having me and really introducing me to your followership, which I really appreciate. I'm joining you from Nairobi, which is where I work. I have, besides being special envoy, my day job is president of the Alliance for Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, an institution that works across the continent. I took on the responsibility of the Food System Summit a while ago in 2019, at the end of 2019, when the Secretary General launched the Food System Summit, and he was looking for someone to lead it. And the Food System Summit really was launched when the Secretary General thought that we are behind. He saw basically, and everybody see that we are behind on a number of things that are very important to our livelihoods, especially among the SDGs. The hunger numbers are going up. We are now at 690. We said we would be at 0 by 2030. Nutrition, excuse me, especially malnutrition numbers continue going up, obesity numbers continue going up, and we are contributing to climate change. We now know that food systems are contributing to climate change. We now know that food systems are contributing to biodiversity loss. So that is why it was launched as a food system summit, not a food summit, not a hunger summit. It's a food system summit that recognizes the complexity of the food system, the fact that it impacts people, but it also impacts our planet. And then it's the beauty of it is it touches nearly each of the 17 SDGs that we are supposed to be coming through on. So really my job is to mobilize the landscape, to mobilize you all, just like we are doing here using your followership, to ensure that we are reaching lots and lots of people to do two things really. To help people understand that you and I make decisions in our food system every day that impact other people, but also impact the planet, right? So we do have something we can do about what's happening from an individual perspective, but also as a collective, as communities, as countries, we are taking certain actions that again are impacting people or lack of action, right? Either the action we are taking or lack of action is impacting people, but it's also impacting our planet. So really the whole food system thing is about how all these things come together, but also how we have the ability to be able to solve some of the problems that we are creating in our food system. So in a nutshell, I hope that gives you a sense of what the food system is about.
Thank you so much. Something you said that the summit is not about food, the summit is not about hunger. You said the summit is specifically on food systems. So I hope that in our conversation, we'll be able to dive deep into that and see what is the difference between food and food systems. What is the difference between hunger and food systems? But before that, I was reading a little bit about you before our conversation today, and I came across this Time magazine article where you spoke about sneaking around with your friends and eating insects. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about how you became so passionate about transforming food systems and the culture of food, and your experience as a refugee. How did that shape your view of food?
So the whole idea of of talking about insects really was the conversation that I brought up because I wanted people to recognize three things really. One, that food is about people's cultures. So yes, insects was not part of my culture, but for the cultures that do have that as their food, they do represent something, and being able to represent the complexity in our food system around culture and the value of culture in our food system is extremely important. The second one is about the power of science and the power of innovation and ability to learn from each other. So today we know that there are ways insect food can be converted and produced much more easily and be able to serve some of the things we are doing to produce food. But we would have to be open-minded. We would have to take advice on how we eat food, or we'd have to convert it enough to be able to make it available in forms that is acceptable to people. So our food culture, our food system is impacted by how we view food, right? How we treasure food, how we, all the things that food brings on the table. So really that's what I brought out. But I hope that through innovation, through science, we can look at the possibilities and take advantage of the possibilities rather than focus on the cultural differences. So that's the other point. On the part of growing up in a refugee camp and what I learned from a food system perspective of the role of food. I mean, what that did for me is that where I grew up was part of rural settings, right? I grew up in a refugee camp, but really in a rural setting, in a rural environment, where you start very early on to understand the value of some of the basics that people have to be able to manage with. And what are those basics? The value of land and the ability for people to access things that can change their lives. So while people can farm every day using what they have, they can actually, that life doesn't have to be subsistence. It can be an extremely productive life, especially if they have access to good technologies that can help improve their ability to have better yields. If they have access to markets that will allow those yields to be translated into school fees for their children, into money they can use for healthcare. So when I became a scientist and started seeing the place and role of some of the technologies like improved varieties, some of the technologies like good use of judicious and good use of fertilizers, how it can change people's lives, then you really understand that your community was held back by lack of access. Your community could have done better. And I want that for every community out there that is living in farming in Africa, that is living in farming anywhere. It's really important for these communities to be able to have that opportunity. And it's really, really something that I feel I'm working towards in my job, in my day job at Agra. That's what I do. And now we have other complexities like climate change that we have to add on and ensure that farmers can really can have access to technologies that can improve their lives and the lives of their children, so that their children, like I had an opportunity, can go to school because farmers farmed and had means to be able to sell their crops and really have
Yeah. No, thank you so much. I really like the way you articulated food not just for survival, but food to thrive in this world as well, and achieve the dignity and the best living standards that people can achieve. A few weeks ago, Agnes, I had the privilege to participate in the youth forum of the Food Systems Summit, and there were hundreds of young people who are passionate about food systems, who are talking about their initiatives, their solutions, and how do they see the transformation of food systems. I see that there is a question in the comments for you asking how are young people involved in the Food Systems Summit. Would you like to answer that question?
Very much so. So when I was given the opportunity to lead this Food Systems Summit, one of the things that came to my mind, first of all, was what is going to be different about this summit, right? I mean, I've been part of seeing summits come and go, and I really wanted to make sure that one of the things we could do is empower communities to have a voice throughout this summit. Again, recognizing fully well that our choices make a difference in food systems, individually and collectively. So in terms of young people, it's that issue of choice. How do you ensure that young people are part of having a voice for the Food System Summit, having a voice to be able to show what they can do, but also use the opportunity to profile the opportunities that sit in the sector for them. Now, that's something we could do in everyday food systems, profiling and demonstrating opportunities for young people within the food system so that they can take advantage of them. But that's not the real point. For me, the real point, why it's really important to have youth in different corners of the food system, is about the fact that we are impacting our planet, and the future of our planet depends on the things we do today. The future of our planet is our youth, and our youth need to understand that, one, they have a voice to request and require that we all stop behaving the way we are behaving if it is impacting our environment badly. Number one. Number two, they need to be equipped because they are the leaders of tomorrow. They are the future. How are they going to handle things differently than us, than we are handling them today, if they don't understand what is at stake? So really ensuring that they are part of the leadership of the summit was very important. For example, young people are vice chairs in action tracks. Young people, the dialogues are taking place everywhere, and participated in the dialogue the other day with the Deputy Secretary General. So really ensuring that that voice is there, that the excitement and the opportunities that you see as young people is coming out because you're very creative, you're very innovative, you have no challenge taking up challenges and making them productive, but also you have a huge responsibility. The future depends on how we all handle the planet, and probably young people recognizing their responsibility in that is going to be very important for where we are going. But I have a question for you as well.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted, but I was just going to add two things to what you said just now, Agnes. One is that young people really care about climate change, and we've seen this from the activism and the way that they've been taking to the streets and holding their leaders accountable. And I've seen a statistic which says that 33% of the global greenhouse emissions are actually generated by food systems. So for young people to think about the intersectionality of food systems and climate action, and really push for solutions in their communities and their countries for greener and sustainable and stronger food systems is something I think that's really important that came out of the youth dialogue. But also young people do suffer from food insecurity issues as well, particularly young people living in conflict settings, humanitarian settings. I saw that about 45% of the deaths among children under 5, for an example, is caused by malnutrition, whereas in other parts of the world, there is a huge obesity problem between among children and young people. So I think there are more than one reason as to why young people need to be involved in the Food Systems Summit and why their voices and their leadership matter so much. So thank you so much for opening up so many different ways for them to get involved, including the youth track and being co-chairs and many other ways. Maybe just to also make an announcement here, if any of the young people who are watching us right now are interested in hosting your own dialogue on food systems, you can do that. You can get more information on this by logging into summitdialogues.org. And when we save this dialogue on our Instagram, we'll make sure that we also mention those sites where you can access those resources and host your own dialogues as well.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. But let me ask you a question myself. We had a meeting together last week, and you really were very passionate and came out just as eloquently as you're doing today. And I'm really proud that you're representing young people because you're able to bring out, the voices very clearly. But when you look at, and again, we did talk about the importance of representing young people, but how effectively do you think that leaders that we meet every day, young leaders we meet every day, how effectively are you able to look back to the communities you represent and be able to ensure that they get access to knowledge? Maybe part of it is maybe having this type of forum where you have millions of followers, but how effective do you think that is working in terms of reaching back and taking what you're learning back to the communities?
Yeah, I think it's really important to bridge that gap between our activism on the ground and what changes happen at the policy level, either it's at the international level or at the national level. A lot of the youth organizations who are doing their work in the communities, in the grassroots, find it extremely difficult to access policy-making rooms, get a seat at the table when it comes to making the most important decisions that not only affect our today, but affects our future as well. So I think having allies and having supporters and having spaces where they can freely, safely express themselves and their ideas and their concerns is extremely important. So I'm really encouraging all the young people who are watching us today to make use of those spaces that the Food Systems Summit has created, to occupy those spaces and to knock on the doors of Agnes and her team and the member states and the ministers who will represent them at this summit to get their messages across. I also want to encourage you to be very active in terms of also holding your leaders accountable when it comes to implementing what will come out as outcomes of this summit. Because we've seen, as Agnes yourself said, so many different summits, but we often do not follow up on them. So once the summit has happened as well, as young people and as accountability leaders, I think you have a crucial role to play to follow up and make sure that your governments, the private sector organizations in your country, and your leaders implement what will be agreed in the summit itself. So I'm really looking forward to the summit, but also to the follow-up and looking at various ways where we can support you to get more and more young people involved in transforming food systems. I think we're running out of time, Agnes. So thank you so much for your time. And really looking forward to supporting you, as I said, and continuing this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and I look forward to you mobilizing young people to our present, as we said, in the Food System Summit, to engage, but also to think through the future of the needs of our Food System Summit and how they can be useful to that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. See you soon.